Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of this amazing 2-part video series about the 13 abundant rules for New Earth entrepreneurs. Okay, and so I'd love to kind of get into it. As you know, in the first video, I outlined the first 6 of these rules. And also I made you an invitation. If you do want more support, you can just click below, schedule a call, and we'll show you all the things that we got on the phone. Okay, and so kind of getting back into the topics here, we have number 7, which is to think abundantly every day. Okay, every day we need to take some time to think abundant thoughts, think happiness, think positivity, think overflow. Feel I already have enough. The universe will always give me everything that I need. Right? For me, this thought changed my life. This happened to me. I'll tell you a quick story. I was talking to 2 different people, right? And at the time I was like interviewing people and putting together like a collaborative offer with different people involved. And so one of them was my friend named Brittany, and the other one was this guy who was a spiritual teacher at a spiritual center that we were trying to do a collaboration with. And he also had been in real estate, and he had made money in real estate. Okay? And so they both had been very financially successful in completely different ways, right? And at the time, I was struggling to like pay rent, okay? I had like nothing, like literally nothing. And so they both, and this was separate. They didn't even know each other. They told me completely separately. I was like, what's the key? Like, what's the secret? Like, how did you manifest this? And they both said, well, I always knew that I would be okay, that the universe would give me everything that I needed. Like, I knew I would always just be okay. And I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have that belief. I actually don't have it. And so I just decided to adopt that belief. It wasn't like, it didn't strike me as some realization through a bolt of lightning. It was literally just a decision that I made based on seeing the benefit, right? I saw the benefit of this new belief, and I decided to adopt it. And I thought, I'll always just be okay. I'll always be okay. The universe will give me whatever I need. I'll always have enough. And I looked backwards in time, and I saw the truth of that statement, that I always did have what I needed, and the universe did always give me what I needed, and I always had enough. And if you look in your life, you'll see evidence for that. You always do have what you need. The universe will always provide, and you'll always have enough. Now, what is enough? That changes, right? What is enough for one person may be enough for someone else, may not be enough for someone else. But we always kind of manage to get by. And so what we have to do is just set our thermometer higher. We have to set our abundance meter a little bit higher, have a higher standard. But at least we need a ground. We need a foundational belief. I always will have enough. The universe will give me what I need. And when you have this belief, it feels like bedrock. It feels like you can build on that. At the time I looked, I had quicksand. And I had trapdoors, right? I thought I was at the bottom, but actually because of my fear and insecurity, the bottom went lower, right? And I had this other parts that I was trying to build on, but it was actually quicksand because of my own beliefs and insecurity and fear, right? In survival mode, it turned what could have been, solid foundation into quicksand, and I just went lower and lower. I couldn't hang on to anything because there was trapdoors and quicksand. There was no bottom. There was no bedrock to build on. And so that's why I call this a foundational belief. We just need to adopt it. We just need to start believing I'll always have enough. The universe will give me whatever I need. I'll always have, I'll always be okay, right? I'll always just be okay. Now, once you're there and you feel pretty good about that one, you can start to build on it and start believing I'll always have more than enough. The universe will give me what I need in abundance. The things that I want will just come to me, and I'll always have more than what I need. There'll be an overflow of wealth and abundance into my life. And you can start believing into these things, and they will start coming true too, right? Because one mistake that we can make is like we start thinking, well, the universe is only going to give me what I absolutely need. And I'm not really worthy of something if I don't absolutely need it. I don't think that's the correct belief. I think it's better to think, well, the universe will give me what I need, but also it gives me what I want, and it gives me it in abundance and overflow. Okay? And so as long as you're using what you have and what you receive for the greater good, then the universe will actually keep giving it to you. It kind of looks like, for me, I always visualize things, and it looks like a toroidal field. There's a shape called a torrid, I think it's called. I think it's called the torrid. It looks like a figure 8, but it's like 3D. And it's like the universe, as long as what you have, you give up. You give it to the greater good. Like it goes out and up. What you have goes out and up from your heart, right? That's you giving it and using it for the greater good and serving humanity with it. If you do that, it creates a loop where the universe will give things to you as well. It returns them. It gives you more. And if you stop the flow by turning inward and just trying to create a little life for yourself, where you're like an island cut off from the rest, the universe treats you like cancer and it cuts you off, right? And so learning to be abundant and really sustain a state of overflow actually means that we turn ourselves into a life of service, and we become generous, right? Being generous and giving, letting the flow come out from us is actually how it starts, right? And gratitude for what we receive. So gratitude for receiving everything that you receive, and also using what you have to benefit others, right? If you get scared, what happens? We cut ourselves off from everybody else and we start to feel very independent, right? Independent in a negative sense. Like according to Buddhism, pretty much all the negative thoughts and feelings and energy that we ever have come from a state where we feel isolated and independent from others and from the universe. And out of fear is when we can notice that we start doing this. We get scared, we get self-centered, we are like an animal, how we respond, like survival mode, right? And we start to act like we're separate. And the universe will actually then, even if it wants to give to us, we can't receive anymore. So part of abundance is getting into a state of loving kind of gratitude, not just for the universe, but for like other people, like loving gratitude towards humans, right? Feeling grateful for them, loving them, appreciating them, right? And then sowing positive seeds, like giving, helping people. This creates a flow of abundance. And sometimes it means investing. When it comes time to make an investment into ourselves, what do? Right? What do? Do we actually invest into positive things? Or, what do we actually do? And so we need to make sure that we're not operating out of fear. And so that's actually point number 8, is get yourself out of fear before you make any decisions, unless the decision is to step into the fear. Okay, so get yourself out of fear. If you're feeling afraid, don't make any decisions, right? One time in my life, I took a big decision to go back to school in a career that didn't serve me. It didn't serve my higher mission. It cut me off from others. It was a bad decision, right? But I did it, and it took a year of my life to kind of like experience the misery of it and to get myself back on the right track. It was a whole year. Now, for a lot of people who are maybe less self-aware, or who go deeper into things, like they could have gotten lost for a lot longer than a year. But for me, it was like 2 semesters, not a huge deal, but still, during that time, I lost connection with the universe. I lost connection with myself, but it was a decision that I made out of fear, right? To go for like material gain. We have to make sure that we don't follow this. We don't follow fear. Let me give you another example. This is the most beautiful story I've ever heard. So someone named Viktor Frankl, who's the founder of what they call, usually it's called existential psychology. He invented something called logotherapy. It's all about the meaning of life. He was the person, he was alive around the time of Freud, and he offered a different presentation than Freud. Freud thought humans were like pleasure seeking, and Viktor Frankl thought that we were like meaning seeking. He appealed to like the higher sense of a human. And so he and his family were Jews, and they were taken in by Nazi Germany into Auschwitz, into different concentration camps, okay? And he was a doctor. He was a professional psychiatrist, which makes him a doctor, actually. He had a medical degree. And so he was often sought after as like a helper of others within the camp. And he had written like a book, his life's work. He had written this giant fat book of his life's work about understanding psychology and humans and how they love meaning and things like this, right? And he had this with him. If they had found it on him, they would have confiscated it and maybe punished him for it. But he brought it with him. And also, he decided at some point, he made a decision to always go where he was needed most and to not think about himself. Now, in those concentration camps, there would be many rumors. Like what would happen is they would be on, for example, they'd be on a train, and like the train would have group A and group B. You could go off to this side to group A, or you can go to this side to group B. And the prisoners had no idea whether group A was going to a death camp or whether they were going to live. And they didn't know about group B either, the same thing. And often one of them was a complete death camp. Everyone who went to that group would literally die, and everyone who went to the other group would actually be alive for a little bit longer. That's actually how it happened. There was many, many choice points in concentration camps about this. And there'd be rumors. Hey, everyone, on Tuesday, they're going to invite a group to go here. Don't go. That's a death camp. Or, hey, everyone, on Thursday, there's going to be a group that goes there. Go there because they're going to live and everyone that stays is going to die. There'd be little rumors, and he decided, and sometimes the rumors were right, and sometimes the rumors were wrong. And he decided to not listen to these and to literally just go where he was of service the most. And as you know, by following his heart, he ended up living. He was the only member of his family that did survive. Everyone else literally died, including his wife, his children, his parents. Everyone died except for him. And he survived, and he brought the manuscript out, and he ended up publishing this thing. But he realized that when humans kept in touch with a meaningful life, when they felt like something was meaningful, it kept them alive. When they had something to live for, they stayed alive. And if they lost all will to live, they died. He's the one who coined the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. But he phrased it differently. He said, he who has a great enough why can overcome nearly any how. Meaning the how takes care of itself. We can overcome any how, right? The how isn't the thing. It's the why that's the thing. If you have a big enough why, you can overcome any how, meaning where there's a will, you will find a way, right? And that was his contribution. He saw people physically die who lost touch with meaning. And he saw himself and others who kept a meaning alive. Like for him, the meaning was, I need to get out so I can publish my work so that I can help people, right? I need to make my life's work known, right? He had that as a meaning, and it kept him alive, even though conditions were literally abysmal. Like you couldn't stay alive just based on your physical body's needs. You had to have a spiritual reason, or else you actually couldn't make it through. They would just die from the horrible conditions and the sickness, etc. Okay, and so this is just a point about trying to follow something higher, follow a greater meaning, follow a greater purpose, not a fear. The fear is always going to trick us into thinking about ourselves and to cutting off ourselves. But if you choose to follow a higher purpose, it's going to involve helping others somehow. There's no such thing as a meaningful life that is one that isn't helping others. You cannot have a meaningful life without helping people. You can't. But it has to be in a meaningful way. You have to help them in a meaningful way. And it's something that you find meaningful, but especially that they find meaningful, right? We find it meaningful when we are expressing some sort of unique kind of gift or talent usually. Or if we just feel uniquely qualified, or if we just see the benefit that they're receiving, right? But generally, we do want to find a way of helping that expresses something within us that we wanted to express. That's when we will find it meaningful. And when we feel received, of course, we find it meaningful. And for others, they need to find it meaningful too, or else we're not actually helping them, are we? Right? And so this is what we should start to follow. And we should not make decisions based on fear, because then we become a cancer. A cancer is a part of a body that cuts itself off and isolates from the rest. And the only thing to do is to cut it off. The universe cuts us off from its flow when we're thinking about ourselves. The only way to get back in flow and receive is to focus on others and to help others, and to also focus on, am I expressing my unique gifts and talents? That's another way to get back. Both of those things gets us back into the flow of receiving, and then we give, we serve, we are generous, we put things out there, we invest in things that can help us, and that creates a flow. Now, if you're coming up to a decision to invest in yourself, either into a program or a mastermind or a mentorship program, or to receive some healing or something, if you find yourself confronted with this type of decision, as you may, if you book a call with my team, we may make you an offer if you're a good fit, potentially, right? If you're open to that. So if this happens, we have to make sure not to follow fear, right? Fear could tell us no, fear could keep us small. It's essentially like our ego fear is going to keep us where we're at because it wants us to stay safe, right? It wants to preserve something within us. Whereas our higher intelligence wants us to grow, wants us to expand, wants us to be bigger, and that's going to require going into something unknown, and you sort of expand that toroidal field, right? Maybe you wouldn't have invested in a bigger thing like this before, but maybe now you do, and now you can receive bigger, right? There's a unique relationship between our investments and what we can receive. And if we start to feel afraid, you either have to not listen to the fear and do it anyway, or learn to get yourself out of the fear so that you can think clearly and then do what's right. Either of those things work. I've had clients who have a fear, but we make a decision anyway. I mean, I used to do this every meditation class I taught. Like, I would often feel a little bit nervous or afraid before the class, but I would just go into it and do it anyway, right? And it turns out amazing, right? And so you don't want to listen. The fear is never telling you something correct. The fear is always wrong, right? The fear says, no, you're not enough. You can't do this. This will not work out. You're not enough to make this happen. This isn't good. Like, fear will tell you those things to keep you small and safe, but it's not truly safe because your potential becomes this unripened like egg that never hatches. You want it to hatch. You have to expose it to greater energy for it to hatch. And the only way to do that is to plant seeds and put out positive things, okay? And if there's an investment that your heart wants to make, you have to let yourself do it, because then you can receive in a bigger way. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. So that was number 8. Number 9 is to hire. This is about hiring. Hire to save time or to fill a necessary gap that you've identified. I don't know why I threw this in there. I think a lot of us do struggle with hiring. We don't know what hiring people means. So now, when I say hire, I don't mean like a coach necessarily. I mean, because coaches are the ones who teach you to fish. When I say hire, I'm talking about someone who actually does a service for you. Maybe they manage your social media, maybe they build you a funnel, maybe they do copywriting, maybe they do email marketing, maybe they're an appointment setting or a sales team or a graphic designer, right? When we hire someone, we want to make sure that we're either hiring for a role that we already understand, in which case we can teach the person that we're hiring, right? For example, if I'm going to hire someone for graphic design, I can tell them it needs to look kind of like this, right? Or if I hire for funnel building, since I understand funnels, I will tell them it has to look just like this. It has to be this, right? If you're hiring for something that you understand, you can kind of find someone with less skill and you can pay them less because they're not bringing their education or experience with them, because you have the education experience and now they're just your hands. That's a fine way to hire if you're hiring for something that you already understand. Now, there is a way to hire people for stuff that you don't understand, and that means that you want to find people who actually understand it, which means don't hire someone that doesn't get paid that much, right? If this person that you're hiring has knowledge, wisdom, experience, skill, right, talent, they're gonna be charging a lot more because they're bringing all this education with them and they know how to get results, in which case they're gonna charge a good amount of money. But that's because you don't have to know anything. You don't have to know a single thing, and they will do it all for you. That's a good kind of hire if you're trying to fill a gap. You're trying to fill a necessary gap that you know needs to be filled. For example, let me give you an example of a time I hired like this. There was once upon a time around my birthday, for some reason, I just happened to be out and I just happened to answer the phone. I normally never answer my phone. And I answered it, and someone was a salesperson, and he was pitching me on something that I apparently opted in for, and it was about appointment setting, getting someone to place, it was like a virtual assistant team that like used my social media to like DM people and get them on my calendar. And I realized during the conversation, and probably even before the conversation started, I realized I actually need this. I actually really, that's my missing piece of my business. When someone's on the call with me, I can usually close them, or I can usually like get the right people to say yes, or at least, a lot of people do say yes. I get clients when I have more calls. I just don't have enough calls. It's like, if I could get more calls, maybe I'd get more clients. And so I said yes, I hired them. It was only like $1,500 a month, not super much. And it worked. They got me like 40 appointments in the first month, like more than I could keep up with. And I made a lot of money that month. And I realized, anyway, blah, 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 the story goes. And what happened was, over time, I saw their process and I learned what they did. And I was able to take a virtual assistant that I only paid $5 or $10 or $8 an hour to, someone who I had on my internal team, and I taught her the process because I studied what was working. I taught it to her, and she had some talent, but no experience or skill at this at all. But I taught her what to do, and she was able to replicate some of their results, not quite as good, but she was able to replicate a bunch of it, and it still worked. Okay, so this is a good example of how to hire people. If you don't understand, you have to hire someone who does, which means you have to pay them more. And if you do understand, you can hire someone who does not know, but then you teach them and you have to monitor them and hold them accountable and stuff, which is what I could have done a better job on, I think. And you get good results if you can do that, right? Because they weren't just skilled, they were also managing their own team members. So it was motivation and skills, accountability is everything. And so you can build that for yourself if you understand. But if you don't know, but if you identified a gap, like, I definitely need a funnel. I definitely need ads. I definitely need an appointment setter. I definitely need a graphic designer. You can hire someone who already understands, right? And then you can just pay them extra because that's what they're worth. And then you can get good results. If you find someone who it's a gap that you have that you don't know how to fill, you should not look for cheap labor. You should not hire the $5 or $10 an hour person because they're not going to understand. Someone who actually is good would never charge that much. They're always going to charge what they're worth. People will charge what they're worth. I see so many people wasting money, including myself. I've wasted so much money hiring people who are not skilled enough because I thought they would just know what to do, but they did not know. You have to teach them, unless it's an agency and part of their pitch is that, look, I already know what to do, and you're paying for all that experience. That's the better way to hire. Okay? And so hopefully that makes sense. And when it comes to a coach or mentor, you have to follow your heart. And it should be someone that you want to replicate results that they have usually, or that their clients have. Like if you're hiring a coach or healer, you should 100% look at their client results. I mean, how else will you hire someone? Their client results are going to be your results. If you just do what their clients did, you'll get the same results. And so you want to just find someone who's got clients who have the results that you want to get. And then you should just ask, how did they get these? And then you just listen to what they said. Okay, that's sort of what to do to hire, in my opinion. Okay, so that was number 9. Number 10 is identify and solve one obstacle at a time and do more of what works, and that equals growth. So growth in a business is 2 things. There's only 2 things that you need to do to grow. Number 1, you find and solve one obstacle at a time. Your biggest obstacle. So what is your biggest obstacle right now? Your biggest obstacle is the bottleneck in the machine. It's the blockage in the machine. It's the block in the organism or whatever, right? Imagine your business is a big machine and it has different parts. There's different blockages or bottlenecks or constraints in part of the machine, or, there's parts that are broken, right? And so if you just find the biggest one and solve it, just one at a time, literally one at a time. Identify, solve the biggest obstacle at a time. Then you can open up growth. For example, in the story I just told you, my biggest constraint was I don't have enough appointments. Once I solved that, my business grew because I had a lot of other things in place. There was a time where my biggest constraint was I do not know how to sell at all. I'm just not good at sales. I fuck up every sale, right? And so I solved that one constraint by learning how to sell. I identified it, and then I hired someone. I paid people to help me, and I learned, and I practiced, and I got good, I got better, and I started making bigger, better sales. That was my constraint, and I solved it. There was a time when my constraint was I don't even have an offer. I don't have an offer. If you don't have an offer, that's your biggest constraint, right? If you don't solve that one, there's nothing you could do. You ask yourself, which one of these constraints or problems, if I solve it, it'll have the biggest effect on my business, or which one of these, if I don't solve it, will guarantee that my business fails or just has the biggest chance of ruining my business? How can I guarantee or give myself the biggest chance of my business failing, right? If you find whatever the answer to that is, I don't have an offer, right? No one knows about me because I don't talk about my message, right? Whatever it is, like I don't feel ready to get clients yet, right? Whatever is your biggest obstacle, if you just solve that one first, right? This is using what they call inversion, right? It's actually a very clear path to wisdom. Buddhism teaches this, right? Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger teach this. Alex Hormozy teaches this. It's called inversion. Einstein would use this. It's a very wisdom-based approach. You flip it and look at the opposite, and then you flip it back. And so you look at the opposite. How can I guarantee that my business will fail? Well, I don't have an offer. I don't feel ready to sell my offer. I'm not telling anyone my message. What if you solve the biggest one of those, one at a time, and then guess what? Your business will grow. That's the same kind of thing as the question, but it gives you a new angle for wisdom. Asking it in a positive sense of like, which one of these, if I solve it, will help my business to grow the most? Sometimes we miss it because we're like, oh, I just need to get my Instagram working. Like, that's probably not your biggest obstacle, okay? And so, sometimes the biggest obstacle is I don't have a workshop. I don't have a message that fits into some sort of live workshop or live challenge. If I just had that, my business would grow. Maybe that's it. And so you find and you solve one obstacle at a time, and also you're also doing something else. The other question for growth is you ask, what am I doing that actually works? What am I doing that when I do it, it works the best? And then you just do more, right? For me, it's like having high ticket offers. When I have only high ticket offers and no low ticket offers for sale, my business grows the most, right? When I like find and just focus on one really great offer, my business grows, right? When I have either live workshops or my calendar's full, one or the other, right? My business grows, right? Making content, sometimes I make content and my business doesn't grow. Sometimes I make content and my business grows. So it can't be content. Content can't be the thing that makes my business grow because there's plenty of time when I make it and I don't make any money, right? When I'm building funnels, when I build funnels, sometimes my business doesn't grow, but sometimes it does. And so that can't be it, because if it was it, every time I did it, my business would grow. But having people on my calendar and an offer that I love, right? My business, and it's high ticket and nothing low ticket for sale, my business grows. And so like, you just ask a question, what am I doing that works? What is the last thing that I did that works? If I look backwards in time, what is the pattern of like what works? And you find it. So for some people, it's like when I'm doing work that I love and I'm passionate about what I do and I pour myself into it with passion, my business grows. People will say yes to me. But when I'm constricted and like doing it out of fear and desperation, my business doesn't grow. I wonder what I should do. Maybe do more of what works and stop doing what doesn't work. Okay. And so this is the path to growth in a business. That's number 10. Number 11 is get in flow to create magic. Okay, so getting into flow, there's a few different steps to getting into flow. Getting into flow state is another word for like focus, actually. It's like focus in motion. When you're in flow, you're in focus, you're in motion, you're in the zone. You have just as much resourcefulness and just as much tapping into source as when you're channeling, except for you're in motion. Okay? It's the same thing as channeling, but you're in motion. Very beautiful. Okay, you're just as connected to source. And what happens is because of the focus, time feels like it expands. Have you ever meditated before and felt like time just expanded? Have you ever been scattered in your thought process and you feel like time shrinks, right? It's like a whole day goes by like this when you're scattered, right? But when you're in focus, time truly expands and you're able to get more units of consciousness into each moment. More units of energy in your consciousness are infused into every moment. And it feels like each moment seems to expand. I've had meditations where it literally feels like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, even like an hour goes by, and it was just 1 minute. Like on retreat, really. When I'm on retreat and I'm meditating in a very deep way, time expands so much that 1 minute feels like it takes an hour to pass. That's how infused into the moment I've been, right? This is beautiful. And when you're doing this, not only does time expand, like your experience of time expands, which means you can get more done in each moment. You have more units of consciousness and energy in each moment. You have more conscious kind of thought, more choice, more infusion of yourself, your beingness into each moment, which means you can get more done in each moment, right? If you had an hour that was in flow, you'll get as much done as someone else, maybe in like a day or 2 days or a week or 2 weeks or a month. Literally in a few hours, you can get done more than what most people can get done in a month if you're in flow. But not only do you get more done, the quality of work is the best that you're capable of. The quality of work when you're in flow is the absolute best that you are capable of, because it's your true consciousness and because you're kind of channeling in that moment too, okay? And so what happens is we complete high quality work that we're proud of. Have you ever done something before, like you did a workbook or an audio or a video course or something, but you're just not proud of it? And you get done with it kind of, but you were kind of scattered as you did it. And when you're done with it, you never tell anyone about it. It just lives in the archives of your computer. You've never told anyone about it. It's because you're not proud of it. You're not confident in it, right? But what if you were in flow when you did it? You'd be confident about it, right? You'd feel proud of it. You'd know this completely came through me. This is not from me. This is from source. And I just was the steward. I was the channel, right? That's a completely different feeling. So not only do you get so much more work done, but it's like divinely inspired and it's high quality. So you definitely need to get into flow state. And the way to do this is just, you have to create boundaries. You have to create a container for the flow, right? Create a channel for the flow, right? And so look at your calendar and block out 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. Usually 2 is pretty good. I like to do 2-hour chunks. So block out a 2-hour chunk, and during that 2-hour chunk, there's nothing in the world that matters except for you being in the room, showing up, present for your task. Now, to truly get into flow, you cannot force yourself to do something if it's a creative task. Your creative task is like your feminine energy. Feminine energy cannot be forced. It's like a flower opening. You cannot force it to open, but you can hold space for it and you can show up for it. You can encourage it. You can muse it out. You can ask questions to muse it out. You can like find little musings to like get it to come out, and you can hold space, right? Yeah, it's really, really important to give yourself the chance to show up. So there is a masculine container involved in creating flow. You create the channel. And so for me, what I do is I show up to the room and you make sure you're prepared, right? If you're prepared for a flow session, you can continue without interruption. If you're not prepared for a flow session, then you have to get interrupted to like do things. For example, if I wanted to get into flow, I make sure I have water in the room. I have my computer and phone or whatever in the room. I have the right state of being, right? I show up with the right state. I might even have some notes, right? I might have a list or some notes or some preparation, and I might know beforehand what I'm gonna do, right? Have some mental preparation, right? The state that we're in and the ability for us to not be interrupted are especially important. So I have rules, right? In my little household with my wife, I have rules where like when I'm working, she just doesn't interrupt me, right? During certain times, if the door is closed or whatever, she just doesn't interrupt me. Because for me to get into flow state, my heart has to actually open. And if you have noticed, I've noticed that my heart won't open if I think I'm going to be interrupted because it has to be protected. It protects itself. I want to feel like I have an external boundary so that I can open my heart and not have a personal boundary of having my heart closed. I have my heart open, but it's because I feel safe to do so. Okay? And so you don't be interrupted and you just try to, you show up with the right state of being where you have the things that you need that you don't have to get interrupted, which includes, it actually does include, to the best of our ability, we should understand the task at hand. We should understand, like for example, if I tried to make this video without the 13 things already listed and a title, how could I make this video? I wouldn't have the proper container, and so I wouldn't have even been able to give a title. But without a title, there's no focus for the class. And each thing would just be a total tangent, and the video could turn into anything. The flow would go off course, right? To have a final product, you need to have channels for the flow, right? And so I needed to have these 13 things so I knew what to do next, and then I can just stay in flow. I don't have to like think about the structure while I'm in flow. I just follow the structure that's already there, which keeps me in flow. The flow state doesn't want to create structure. The flow state is going to flow. It just flows. You have to allow it to flow properly by coming up with at least some minimal structure before you start. So for example, you might show up to a flow state session, but you have 3 or 7 things written on a piece of paper. It could be 1 word each, right? And it might be stuff that you want to focus on during the flow session, right? It's just stuff that you want to get done. It's a very basic to-do list. I need to do this. Otherwise, we might start writing a book that we don't need to write right now. Or we might, maybe there's very high yield tasks. There may be a couple things that bottleneck that you have to solve, which unlocks your growth. Or it's something that you know works and you're just going to do more of it, right? There could be important things for your business, right? You need to schedule time to do them, and then you need to know what they are, and you need to understand them enough. You mentally prepare about understanding them so that you can show up to a flow state session like this and be in flow and then not have to think about what to do very much. The other tip I would give is to use your timer on your phone. And you can see here I have it set for 25 minutes, right? I guess the camera's over there. 25 minutes. And so if in a 2-hour block, I will have 4 25-minute flow sessions or flow state sessions, right? And so I just set the timer for 25 minutes and I work until the timer's over. And when the timer's over, I either take a 5-minute break or I just go right back into working, right? And I do 3 or 4 of these and then that's it. And then I take an actual break where I leave the room, right? I just went on a walk. In between the last video and this video, I went on a walk. I did a little bit of exercise and I planned out my dinner so that I know that when this video is done, I don't have to think, I just go right and I make dinner. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you have a little bit of a plan, then you can flow within the plan without having to be the analyst and the artist at the same time, right? You do the analysis beforehand and you lay the plan out. Then when you're in flow, you just trust the plan. Trying to analyze takes us out of flow. So you minimize analysis by doing that ahead of time. And that's the structure that you lay out. But it can't be too much. It has to be minimal. It has to be space inside the channel for flow. Okay, and so that's how you can get into flow, to create magic. That was number 11. Number 12 is, number 12, improve yourself like it's your job. Improve yourself like it's your job. This is your job now, to improve yourself. This is your job. Okay? And so take it on as a job, right? If you had a job, you would schedule in time and you would actually go do it. If you just did it when you felt like it, you wouldn't get paid much, right? And if you just improved yourself when you felt like it, you wouldn't grow that much. You have to do it even when you don't want to. That's the key. Like, a lot of us take our feelings too seriously. The word feeling is ambiguous. It means a lot of different things. It doesn't have just one meaning. The word feeling, we use it to mean our intuition. We use it to mean our gut. We might even use it to describe fear. You know, what fear is emoting to us. You know, have a bad feeling about this. The word feeling could just be like random thoughts and random feelings, right? Like, it could just be an experience. And so the word feeling in Buddhism has a very specific meaning. It only means the perception of something as being either uncomfortable, comfortable, or neutral, or like pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So like a feeling is just an experience of an object or something being pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's it. So like pleasantness, unpleasantness, and neutrality are feelings. And like when you have a drink, there's either pleasantness that goes along with the drink, there's unpleasantness, or there's neutrality. That's it. Feeling doesn't refer to wisdom or intuition. It doesn't refer to gut responses. It doesn't refer to anything like that. It just means the pleasantness of something, the unpleasantness of something, or the neutrality of something, like the experience of that. Anyway, just trying to say here that we need to know what kind of feeling something is within us. And sometimes we just don't want to do something because it's going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes we're attached to the comfort of our bed, or we're attached to the comfort of our habits, or we're attached to the comfort of ice cream at night, or we're attached to this person being next to us, even though they're bad for us, or we're attached to that TV show, even though that's time that we could have been spending building our business, or we're attached to like the feeling of comfort in our body, and that'll get ruined if we go to the gym. So sometimes we're attached to the comfort of something or the pleasantness of something, and that creates resistance to anything else. Anything that looks like it would harm the comfort, we have resistance to. And so we're resistant to growth. We're resistant to going and meeting new friends. We're resistant to doing new things. We're resistant to going to work, even though that will pay us. We're resistant to building a business, even though that could give us the life of our dreams. Right? We're resistant to like going on dates, even though we kind of need to. We're resistant to leaving our partner, even though we need to. We're resistant to like, learning in our free time rather than, watching Seinfeld in our free time, right? We're resistant to the gym or to the meditation seat, right? How much resistance do we have to sitting our butt down and meditating, even though we know it's good for us? 15 minutes a day. Right? Keeps the therapist away, right? All we have to do is like meditate a little bit, and we know there's benefits to that. And so, but we're resistant to it because we're attached to comfort, or we just think that it's going to be uncomfortable somehow. And so those feelings that come up when we're considering making a good decision for ourselves are not important to listen to. Those are not intelligent feelings. Those are just comfort or resistance to discomfort. It's either comfort that we then get attached to, or it's discomfort that we feel aversion to. And we spend most of our life living like a little child, living like an animal. We just follow comfort and pleasure, and we move away from discomfort and displeasure, but that's not where growth happens. Growth happens when we choose what's good for us, and we put ourselves there no matter what the feeling is, because we have wisdom that has determined ahead of time that it's good for us, and we choose to follow that wisdom no matter what, no matter how it feels, right? If I were to go to the gym every day for 30 minutes a day and eat healthy and avoid eating unhealthy and get good sleep, right? If I were to choose that and then do it every day for 1 year, guess what my mental and physical and emotional state would be after 1 year? We can all agree it would be a lot better, wouldn't it? It would be freaking amazing, wouldn't it? I would be in better shape. I'd be really good. I'd be balanced emotionally. My hormones would be balanced. My energy would be clean. My energy would flow properly. Sometimes we get stagnant and our energy gets stuck because we're not moving enough. And so my energy would flow better. My mind would flow better. I'd feel more confident about myself. I would feel like I'm a person who can set my mind to do something and do it. I'm a person who can follow through on good decisions. I'm a person who says no to impulses in the moment that lead me astray, right? So all those things, but even though that all of that's true, how many times would I have to ignore my feelings in order to go? How many times would I have to say no to the thought to just stay in bed or to do nothing or to do less? How many times would I have to ignore that? How many times would I have to get myself to show up even when I have resistance? How many times would I have to work through resistance? It's the same thing for your business. You cannot build a business following feelings of comfort. If feelings of comfort are your guide, you're going to go nowhere. If wisdom is your guide, and if you have discipline to match it, you will go somewhere, isn't it? Right? And building your business is the same way. Why? Because building your business gets yourself out of the hole. Building your business gets you to a new life. You're building the bridge to your new life. You're going from this city to that city, old life to new life. There's a bridge. And the wisdom and the decisions will help you build it. You're going to have to ignore your feelings. You're going to have to move through resistance and fear and choose the right thing no matter what. Objectively speaking, we all know what's good for us. And to get ourselves to do it, we have to not listen to feelings many times. Not listen to feelings of pleasantness and unpleasantness and attachment to pleasure and resistance to displeasure, right? We can't listen to those feelings. Okay. And so if you decide to improve yourself like it's your job, and in my opinion, getting your financial life in check is good for your mental health. That's a type of self-improvement. That's a type of self-love, is to treat your financial life like it's vital, because it is. In today's world, money is like air. It's like water. You actually need it. In the olden days, you didn't really need much money. The community would kind of take care of you, and you could trade and you could work. It's very different in ancient Tibet. If you were a monk or a nun, you could literally get by, the community, the country, like Tibet and India. They actually revered monks and nuns. They thought they were amazing. They treated them with a lot of respect, and people would feel honored to give them food and give them a place to stay and help them, give them clothes, right? Or whatever. That was honorable back in the day. Today's world, you actually need money to survive. You actually will die without it. Many times you'll die because you need basic money to give yourself food, water, to avoid poison, to have a place to live, to have clothes, to if something comes up, you might need a car, you need money today. It's like air. And so you must take your financial life just as important as you take oxygen, and put time and energy into building it like it's a survival need, like it's something that you need. And that means choosing to do that even when comfort is beckoning, right? The new Game of Thrones season is out. Do I go there or do I build my business, right? Some people say you can have both, but why? Why do we want both? Why do we need both? Building a business is actually more exhilarating. It's actually more fun anyway. You feel better about yourself after you've built your business and after you spent 2 hours doing that, tonight, than you would if you watched a show. You'd feel better about yourself. So why not give yourself that gift? That's self-love, isn't it? And by doing that many days in a row, you'll actually build something that you can start selling, that you can start making money in. It doesn't take that many 2-hour sessions in a row right? If you did that 10, 12, 11, 13 days in a row, you probably have a lot more than you do right now, right? That's pretty good, right? If you do it while you're in flow state, you can get many months worth of work done in just those few sessions. How much better would your financial life be? How much better would your self-concept be? How much more would you be confident? How much more would you be prepared to serve others? How much more would you have just improved yourself? And so, of course, the universe will reward that kind of effort. Okay? If this is resonating with you, again, you can book a call if you haven't already. And like I said, there is one more. Okay? So number 13 is to help others for free every single day. You don't need to monetize all your impact. Help others for free every single day. You do not need to monetize all your impact. A lot of times, as I already said, we have impulses for impact. But in this case, this is less about like monetizing and just like the impulse, and just more about like just every day based on a decision, not based on an impulse, but even just based on a decision. Just spend some amount of time every day helping people for free. And especially if you want to get unstuck, if you ever feel stuck, like being stuck, some people say there's no such thing. Okay, but there is an experience of being stuck. Sometimes we feel stuck. Sometimes if you look objectively, you can say, okay, I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck at this level of income. I plateaued here. I'm making $100 a week, and that's all I've been making for the last 6 months. I'm stuck there. That's valid and accurate to say. Or I make $1,500 a month. That's all I make. I haven't made more ever, right? Or I'm stuck here. I do single sessions. I charge $50, I charge $100 per session. I'm stuck there. I don't know. I haven't ever gone beyond it, and I've tried, so therefore I'm stuck, right? If you try to do something bigger than what you've done, but you consistently have trouble doing it, it might mean you're stuck. And so if you ever get stuck, just help someone else for free with the exact same thing that you're stuck with. And so if you're stuck with literally anything, if you're stuck with your diet and you have negative habits of diet, just find 5 people and just go help them for free. Find them in Facebook groups, connect to them, help them for free. Anyone here struggling with this, and you just help them for free. Why? Why does this work? I'll tell you why. Actually, I can tell you why it works, but I know it works. So if you don't need to know why, then just go do it. Help people for free, period. If you want to get unstuck with something, help them for free with the same thing you're struggling with, period. If you want to know why the second one works, it's because when we're stuck, we're thinking about ourselves. And when we help others for free, we're thinking about others. And when we are helping them with something that you understand the struggle of, your compassion will come out. Your compassion will purify your own blockages. Compassion purifies our mind. Compassion purifies our consciousness. Compassion unblocks us from what we're blocked with. And so if you have compassion for these 5 people who are struggling with something that you understand the struggle of, your compassion will come out, and that will unstuck you. Your compassion washes away all the stains of misconduct. Your compassion washes away all the stains that are blocking you. It does. It purifies you. And if you're stuck, it's usually because we've gotten ourselves into a state where for some reason or another, we're hyper-focused on ourselves. We're hyper-focused on our own stuckness or our own state, our own motivation. We're hyper-focused on our own results, our own ego, our own status, our own expectations, our own outcomes, our own process, our own personality. We're hyper-focused on something about ourselves. And there's no way to work yourself out of that while you're in that state. You have to switch the state to a new state, to an opposite state. And then you will not be stuck anymore because the activities work, but you gotta approach them with the right state. Okay? And so in this case, and this works, I'll tell you, from my experience with alcoholism and substance abuse. Okay? I went to many, at least I think it was many, it wasn't that many, but I went to a lot of 12-step meetings as a role of like with I was like a therapist, right? I went to it as a client a very little bit, but I also went to it like for research purposes when I was becoming a therapist. And I noticed that when you're around people, like what happens when you're in those rooms is you listen to the problems of every person. Every person's got their story of how drugs or alcohol ruined their life, and it put them in a very miserable, sad state where they lost everything usually. If you listen to a bunch of these stories, your compassion comes out, you stop feeling sorry for yourself, you stop feeling like a victim, and you start blaming what's actually at fault in this case, which is the drugs and alcohol. And you get a clear pattern of like, I'm not special. This thing destroyed my life, but it's not because I'm special. It's because this thing it has this effect on people. Because look what it did to all these people, and some of those stories are worse than mine. And so I get out of my own victim consciousness and I actually start to care about others. And then all of a sudden I can think clearly and I'm not stuck anymore, right? In the same way with helping others. If you're stuck with something, it's because you're hyper-focused on yourself. You might even be in a victim state. You need to get into an empowered state, and you can do that by just helping people for free, either with anything at all, just because it's good karma, it plants good seeds, that means you can start receiving more, period. That's it. If you just want to help people, just go help people. But if you do notice that you're stuck with something, you're very welcome. I give you permission to just go help people for free with that thing. I promise you, it will unstuck you. It will. Okay? If you want more help, book a call, and I can't wait to talk to you. If you're watching this, you may have already booked a call. I don't know. But either way, congratulations, and I can't wait to serve you more in our programs. When you're ready, please do that, and have a great day. See you soon.